The whole thing started back in 1999 at this networking event for professionals. One of those stuffy mixers where everyone pretends to care about each other's business cards. I had just graduated college and was feeling pretty good about myself. You know, I'm tall, blonde, got the whole package going on, and I'm working this room like I own the place. That's when I spot Hunter across the room. And honestly, my first thought was that he looks like someone's accountant uncle who got lost on his way to a family barbecue. But then he starts talking. And holy shit, this guy is actually funny. Not just dad joke funny, but genuinely witty in a way that catches you off guard. He's telling this story about some client who tried to write off his divorce as a business expense. And I'm actually laughing. Not that polite networking laugh, but really cracking up. And here's the thing about Hunter. He knows exactly what he looks like. 5'9" on a good day, round face, carrying some extra weight around the middle, but he owns it completely. He introduces himself and immediately makes some joke about how I probably mistook him for someone important. And there's something weirdly attractive about a guy who can be that self-aware without being pathetic about it. So we exchange numbers, and he starts calling me every couple weeks to hang out. Nothing serious, just casual dates, dinner, movies, the usual stuff. And I have to say, the man knows how to treat a woman right. Always picks up the check without making a big show of it. Opens doors. Remembers little things I mentioned in passing. Plus, he works in finance and clearly does pretty well for himself. Which doesn't hurt. My family keeps making these comments every time I mention him, though. My mom's like, well, as long as you're happy, sweetheart, in that tone that suggests she's not entirely convinced I am. My dad just raises his eyebrows when I show him Hunter's picture. We're all tall in my family. I'm 5'8". My brothers are all over 6 feet, so Hunter definitely stands out in group photos. This goes on for almost a year, and I'm getting kind of tired of the whole casual thing. I mean, we're practically dating anyway, so why not make it official? So one night over dinner, I bring up the "what are we" conversation. Hunter gets this look on his face like he's been waiting for me to ask, and he says he'd love to be exclusive. Just like that. No drama. No hemming and hawing. Just a straightforward yes. I remember thinking that was refreshing. Finally, a guy who doesn't need to be dragged kicking and screaming into commitment. 2 months later, I decide we should get married. I know how that sounds, but hear me out. We'd already been seeing each other for over a year, total. We got along great, and I could tell he was crazy about me. Why waste time? So I bring it up one evening when we're watching some terrible movie at his place. And again, Hunter just smiles and says yes. No big romantic proposal needed. I basically handled that part myself. We have a nice wedding. Nothing too fancy, but tasteful. And honestly, watching him at the altar looking like he couldn't believe his luck was pretty sweet. The next 9 years are, well, they're fine. Hunter's a good husband. I'll give him that. He works hard, provides well, never gives me any real reason to complain. We have our son Lucas, who's absolutely beautiful, tall like my side of the family. Thank goodness. And Hunter's a devoted father. But here's the thing that starts getting under my skin. Everywhere we go, people feel the need to comment. At family gatherings, my cousin's wife pulls me aside and whispers, "You're so good to him. Kim, he's lucky to have someone like you." At work functions, Hunter's colleagues' wives make these remarks about what a catch I am and how Hunter married up. Even strangers sometimes give us these looks like they're trying to figure out what the story is. And the worst part is, Hunter seems to eat it up. He'll laugh along when people make jokes about him out kicking his coverage or whatever. Like it's all just good fun. But I'm standing there thinking, do we really need to keep pointing out the obvious here? Yes, I'm attractive. Yes, I could have probably married someone who looks like a movie star, but I chose Hunter. And everyone acting like it's this huge mystery is getting really old. It all comes to a head on a Tuesday night in March. Lucas is spending the night at my parents' house, and I come home from work feeling completely drained. I pour myself a large glass of wine. Okay, maybe 2 large glasses. And I'm sitting there thinking about my life, about how predictable everything has become, about how Hunter and I have fallen into this routine where we barely even see each other as anything other than co-parents and roommates. I start crying, which is not like me at all. But the wine is making me emotional, and I'm just feeling so trapped. Hunter comes home from work and finds me on the couch, probably looking like a mess. And he immediately goes into concerned husband mode, asking what's wrong, if something happened at work, if my mom called with bad news, all the usual suspects. And I'm looking at him standing there in his wrinkled shirt and loosened tie. And I think, When was the last time I felt any real excitement about this man? When was the last time my heart raced when he walked in the room? So I take a deep breath and I say, Hunter, can we talk about something kind of serious? He sits down next to me with this worried expression. And I just start talking. I tell him how I've been feeling restless lately. How I wonder sometimes what it would be like to just hang out with someone else. Not permanently. I make sure to clarify, but just to remember what it feels like to have that spark with someone new. I explain that I've been reading about open marriages and how they've actually saved couples by letting them explore other connections while maintaining their primary relationship. Hunter's face goes completely blank. Like, I cannot read his expression at all. I keep talking, explaining how this would just be temporary, how we could both do what we want but always come back to each other and our family, how it might actually make us appreciate what we have more, and then I wait for his response, expecting him to need time to think about it or maybe freak out a little. Instead, he just looks at me for a long moment and says, okay, that's it. Just okay. No questions about rules or boundaries or how this would work logistically. No asking if I already have someone in mind, which, to be honest, I kind of do. There's this guy Ryan from the marketing firm we work with sometimes, and we've been having these great conversations lately about feeling stuck in our respective marriages. He mentioned that he and his wife are trying an open arrangement, and it got me thinking, I'm so shocked by Hunter's easy agreement that I actually hug him, which seems to amuse him for some reason. Later, I realize he probably figured out that I wouldn't have brought this up unless I already had plans. But in the moment, I'm just relieved that he's being so mature about everything. The next 2 months are honestly pretty great. At least at first. Ryan and I start meeting for coffee, then lunch, then longer conversations that turn into something more. He's everything Hunter isn't. Tall, conventionally attractive, intense in a way that makes me feel like I'm the most fascinating woman he's ever met. When he tells me I'm beautiful and intelligent and that Hunter doesn't appreciate what he has, I feel like I'm waking up from a long sleep. Meanwhile, Hunter seems totally fine with the whole arrangement. He's still his usual cheerful self, still handles his share of parenting duties, still treats me exactly the same way he always has. If anything, he seems more relaxed, which I find a little annoying. Shouldn't he be at least a little bit jealous? Shouldn't he be trying harder to win me back or something? After about 2 months of this, I start getting curious about what Hunter's been up to. I mean, I assume he's seeing someone. We both agreed this was a two-way street, but he's been so discreet about it that I barely notice any changes in his schedule. So one night after Lucas goes to bed, I ask him how things are going on his end. The smile that crosses his face should have been my first warning. It's been really good. Kim, he says, really, really good. Actually, it's been amazing, mind-blowing. Even, I feel this cold sensation in my chest, but I try to keep my voice casual. Oh, anyone I know? Actually, yeah, Sarah from your office. You know, from accounting. She's always been really friendly when she comes to our parties. I swear to you, everything just stops. Sarah, who I have to see every single day at work. Sarah, who's been to our house for barbecues and birthday parties, and who always makes those comments about what a cute couple Hunter and I are. Sarah, who's been flirting with my husband right in front of me for years. And I was too stupid to realize what was happening. Are you effing kidding me right now? I hear myself saying, and my voice sounds strange and high-pitched. Sarah from my work. Hunter's smile fades a little. Kim, you said we could both see other people. I thought you'd have some common freaking sense about who you picked. I'm standing now, pacing around the living room like a crazy person. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is going to be for me? I have to work with her. Hunter, I have to see her face every single day. But you're seeing Ryan, and I don't make a big deal about that. Ryan works across town. I don't have to interact with Ryan's wife or pretend everything's normal while knowing what happened. This is completely different. Hunter's looking at me like I'm speaking a foreign language. Kim, you're the one who brought this up. You said you wanted us both to explore other connections. I never wanted any of this. And that's when I really lose it. I'm screaming about boundaries and respect and basic human decency. And Hunter's just sitting there, taking it like he's waiting for me to run out of steam. Which makes me even angrier. Because how can he be so calm when our marriage is falling apart? The next day at work is a nightmare. I can barely look at Sarah without wanting to throw my coffee mug at her head. She's acting completely normal, chatting about some stupid TV show like she hasn't been screwing my husband behind my back. Finally, I corner her by the copy machine and tell her exactly what I think of her little game. I may have mentioned something about making her life at work very unpleasant if she doesn't stay away from Hunter. She gets all wide eyed and innocent, claiming she didn't realize I'd be upset since it was my idea in the first place. My idea. Like I suggested my husband sleep with my coworker specifically. Like I wanted to be humiliated in my own workplace. I go home and tell Hunter that the open marriage thing is over. Done. We're going back to being exclusive. And he needs to cut all contact with Sarah immediately. But instead of being relieved like I expected, Hunter gets this stubborn look on his face. Why? He asks. I thought this was supposed to help our marriage. Because it's not working. Obviously, look how upset I am. You're upset because I enjoyed myself. If I had come home miserable and told you it was terrible, you'd be fine with this, which is ridiculous. I'm upset because he chose someone specifically designed to hurt me, not because he had a good time. But trying to explain this to Hunter is like talking to a brick wall. He keeps throwing my relationship with Ryan back in my face. Like it's the same thing at all. The worst part is, I can't even enjoy my time with Ryan anymore because I'm so pissed off about the Sarah situation. Every time Ryan and I are together, I'm thinking about Hunter with her, wondering what they talked about, what she did that was so mind-blowing. It's poisoning everything. So I end things with Ryan, which he doesn't take particularly well. Apparently, his wife wasn't as understanding about their arrangement as Hunter was, and now he's dealing with his own marital problems. He actually has the nerve to blame me for leading him on when I was always clear this was temporary. But ending my thing with Ryan doesn't fix anything at home. Now I'm just angry and frustrated and stuck with a husband who apparently discovered a whole new side of himself that I never knew existed. Hunter's still being perfectly pleasant and reasonable, which somehow makes everything worse. I want him to fight for our marriage, to be devastated that I'm pulling back from him, to do something that shows he cares about losing me. Instead, he just goes back to his normal routine like nothing happened. Except now I'm watching him constantly, looking for signs that he's still in contact with Sarah or finding someone new. I check his phone, his email, his credit card statements. I drive by his office at weird hours to see if his car is really there when he says he's working late. I become this paranoid, suspicious person that I don't even recognize. And Hunter notices, obviously, he starts calling me out on the checking up, asking why I don't trust him when he's doing exactly what I asked him to do. But how can I trust him when he showed me a side of himself that I never knew existed? When he proved that he could be passionate and excited about someone who wasn't me, the fighting becomes constant. Every conversation turns into an argument about the open marriage, about Sarah, about trust and boundaries and who's responsible for the mess we're in. Lucas starts asking why mommy and daddy are always mad at each other, which breaks my heart, because this was supposed to make our family stronger, not tear it apart. Finally, Hunter sits me down one evening and says he thinks we should separate. Just like that. Like he's suggesting we try a new restaurant. He says our marriage has become toxic and he doesn't want Lucas growing up in a house full of anger and resentment. He says he still cares about me, but he can't live with the constant accusations and surveillance. I'm completely shocked. In all my scenarios about how this would play out, Hunter leaving me never even occurred to me. Hunter, who used to act like he couldn't believe his luck that I married him. Hunter, who everyone said was so fortunate to have someone like me. Hunter was supposed to fight to save our marriage, not walk away from it, but he does walk away. He files for divorce, finds his own apartment, sets up a schedule for sharing custody of Lucas. He's perfectly civil about the whole thing, agreeing to split everything 50-50, even though he makes more money than I do. No alimony, no fighting over assets, no drama. Just a clean, efficient end to 9 years of marriage. The whole process takes about 6 months. And through all of it, Hunter never once gets angry or vindictive. He shows up to mediation sessions with his lawyer, signs whatever papers need to be signed, and treats the whole thing like a business transaction, which somehow feels worse than if he had screamed and fought and made demands. At least that would have shown he cared about losing me. Our friends and family are all shocked. Of course. Everyone wants to know what happened, how he went from seeming so stable to divorced in less than a year. I find myself giving vague explanations about growing apart and wanting different things. Because how do you explain that you destroyed your marriage by asking for something you thought you wanted? The truth is, I did cause all of this. I ruined what was actually a perfectly good marriage because I got bored and restless and thought the grass might be greener somewhere else. Hunter never asked for any of this drama. He was content with our life together, content with our family, content with me, and I threw it all away because I needed to feel desired by someone new. Now, 5 years later, I'm remarried to a guy named David who's everything I thought I wanted. Tall, good-looking, successful, and Hunter's still single, still living in his same apartment, still perfectly happy with his life as a part-time dad and full-time bachelor. When I pick up Lucas for my weeks, Hunter's always polite and friendly, asking how I'm doing and if I need anything, like we're old friends who just happen to have a kid together. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd never brought up the open marriage idea. If I had just dealt with my restlessness some other way, maybe talked to a therapist or planned some romantic getaways or found a hobby that excited me, Hunter and I would probably still be married, still raising Lucas together in the same house, still boring and stable and predictable. But then I think about that look on Hunter's face when he told me how amazing his time with Sarah was. And I know there's no going back from that. Once you see that your husband is capable of passion and excitement that he's never shown you, once you realize that he can be a completely different person with someone else, how do you pretend that doesn't matter? The thing that really gets me is how well Hunter's handled everything. He never badmouths me to Lucas or our mutual friends. He never acts like the divorce was my fault, even though we both know it was. He just moved on with his life, like our marriage was a chapter that ended. And now he's writing a new one. Meanwhile, I'm still trying to figure out how I became the kind of person who destroys her own life because she's bored on a Tuesday night. But I guess that's what happens when you think you're too good for what you have. When you spend years listening to people tell you how lucky your husband is to have you, instead of remembering how lucky you are to have him, when you mistake stability for settling and contentment for complacency, when you think you deserve more than a man who loves you and provides for you and makes you laugh, just because he doesn't look like a movie star. Hunter's doing fine without me. Better than fine. Actually, and maybe that's the hardest part of all, realizing that the person you thought was lucky to have you is actually much better off without you.